After the video about Freezer, there were many people who were dissatisfied with my opinion and made sure to let me know in the comments section. It was like 5 smelly nerds and 1 died from COVID, but we must keep going, so let's go. One of the things that made me laugh the most was that apparently I'm a hypocrite. Because I think that if you absolutely have to bring a character back to life, was it really a better option to revive Fel? Even though in the video itself, I give roughly a couple of reasons why it was much more effective and interesting for the plot. Bringing back Cell was like they thought I didn't like that they revived Freezer because I'm a Cell fanboy or something like that. Which shows me that they didn't understand anything from the video, since in the video itself, I criticized the whole thing about reviving characters like crazy. But if you absolutely have to revive a character, Freezer, who already had his own saga within Super, was not the best option. And actually, I like Freezer much more than Cell. I even have a video talking about the best villains in anime where I mention him. However, his role in Super was still quite disappointing. Oh my god, right. Here come the cringe Dragon Ball fanboys telling me I don't know anything about Dragon Ball because I don't think like them. Back off, Freezer fanboy. Don't suck my dick. No. I'm gonna list and explain the reasons why Cell yes and Freezer no. And remember, this is just the humble opinion of another fan. Before we begin, you would make me very happy if you stopped by my gaming channel and my live stream channel Siempre Claro, leaving your follow in both places. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, now is a great time to do so. It's free and even includes a complimentary treat. What more could you want? Point 1. Some have so much and others so little. What do I mean by this? Well, basically, Cell has been the most ignored character by Toriyama by far, considering how important the character was in his saga. The other villains, like Piccolo or Vegeta, not only had their own exclusive sagas, but also had other great moments, and especially Vegeta, who is, at this point, basically a co-protagonist along with Goku. On the other hand, Majin Buu and Frieza are both still alive, with Majin Buu as one of the protagonists. Lately, he's mostly comic relief, but at least he's still around. Frieza, we've already discussed him extensively, and I think it's undeniable that, whether I agree with it or not, he had a lot of prominence in Super. But I find it impressive that they rely on nostalgia for everything except for Cell. I mean, they even brought back fucking Android 17, the son of a butt-chi Android 17. Yeah, I'm sure this character had a huge fandom screaming for him to come back. Soon we'll discuss 17 further. The thing is, yes, this is one of the reasons, since you give all the damn villains and former villains new appearances in the series. Well, I don't see a reason why Cell shouldn't be given a chance to contribute more to the story. Point number 2, the concept of Cell. This is something I touched on briefly in the Frieza video because I really think the concept of the bio-android was wasted. I actually think that even Cell himself didn't live up to his concept. And while it's true that if you were a bit sharp, you could notice that this character was a mix of several others in the way he behaved. For instance, his Saiyan side emerged when he spared Trunks and arranged the tournament, when his Piccolo side came out during calm moments, or when he acted like Frieza or his father, although the Frieza part didn't come out much. I dare say that cowardly way he behaved at times, like trying to run away pathetically when he was outmatched. In front of Gohan, it was typical of King Cold's style, because Freezer would never run away from an enemy in such a pathetic way. Freezer would never set aside his honor like that. In any case, all these factors could have led to a very interesting redemption arc for Cell. Which brings us directly to the next point. Point number 3, coherent possibility of change. While Freezer is a born tyrant, an abominable being who has committed thousands of crimes and has dubious honors to his name, such as having wiped out entire races in one fell swoop. Moreover, he relishes it all as Freezer's greatest pleasure is cruelty, doing whatever he wants and having everyone at his mercy through absolute fear. On the other hand, we have Cell, a character who showed he wasn't really interested in things like conquest. And above all, it's very clear that he's not a big fan of causing fear or killing others just for the pleasure of it. Yes, Cell committed some crimes, like when, in his imperfect form, he absorbed hundreds and hundreds of people to make himself stronger. But number 1, it's hypocritical for us to hate Cell, because we all love Vegeta, who really is a true genocidal maniac. Someone who from a very young age would go and conquer other planets, wiping out anyone who got in his way. And number 2, Cell didn't do it for pleasure or to make a profit. like conquering and selling planets. Cell did it out of survival and necessity. Let me explain this. Cell had the mission programmed into him to absorb the androids in order to reach his perfect form. Basically, so we understand each other, because of that programming, Cell was obsessed with perfecting himself. There was no other thought in his mind because his programming didn't allow it. Therefore, it's as if, in a way, he was, in quotes, being controlled. And for survival, because with his initial power, he wasn't even able to tickle the androids. Therefore, he was almost forced to obtain power from the fastest and easiest source, human beings. I know it sounds horrible that I'm justifying Cell's atrocities, and in fact, I'm not defending them. It's just that for me, Vegeta and Frieza, for example, committed much more atrocious acts. Point number 4, potential in the plot. It goes without saying how extremely interesting it would have been to bring back Cell, both for the factor of interacting with characters like Gohan, Keith, Piccolo, Beerus, whom he would surely want to defeat, and above all with numbers 17 and 18, considering the tremendous forced power-up of 17. A mini showdown between the two of them before the tournament would have added extra tension to the moments leading up to the tournament, which would have been, honestly, great. I can also imagine some dialogues with Gohan, Gohan would probably threaten him not to do anything stupid and all that. Even an interaction with those from that universe full of androids would have been really interesting. And besides, Cell is a Saiyan like any other. He loves having rivalries, and that tournament would have been a festival of rivalry. Just imagining a powered-up Cell beating the crap out of Hitter Topo, God of Destruction, makes my mouth water. But that's because I want to eat a pizza, not because of Cell. You guys must be thinking, but that huge guy, as big as the Burj Khalifa, Cell wasn't strong enough to participate in that tournament. They plan to beat him up like they did Tekkingen. This is Dragon Ball Super we're discussing. When has this series ever cared about power-ups making sense? For example, just look at Android 17. Even today, I still don't have a coherent explanation for his current abilities. Was it because he was protecting the little animals on that island? Farting? I don't know. The thing is, I can think of interesting ways to bring Saru up to the level of the warriors. The Room of Spirit and Time was intriguing, but there's another method I find very interesting. Baruma has often been called the world's best scientist and inventor. At this point in Super, that may be true. She has abilities and tools that are far superior to what Dr. Maki Geronofilico had back in his day. Therefore, it's not crazy to think that Cell, being a creature designed by Hero and his gaming PC, could be upgraded. So to speak. I don't know. Maybe he has some kind of software and all that. Who knows? The point is that a power-up for Cell from Bulma is not crazy at all. In fact, it would have made Bulma more relevant to the plot since Cell's tournament performance would depend on her. But, Beltito, what if Cell doesn't turn good? What if he goes out of control and being so overpowered by the upgrades becomes a threat? That takes us directly to the next point. Point number 5. Ease of nerfing. Since he's an artificial being, as I've said, Bulma herself could influence Cell's mind. Or by changing the parts that make him have evil impulses. Or much more simply, by installing certain mechanisms and devices that she or other characters can activate at will. If they see that Saru is plotting something bad, some system that temporarily incapacitates him through some kind of advanced electrical impulses or anything like that, I don't know, I'm just giving some general ideas so that this option makes sense and is easy to apply. But the truth is, to be honest, the Dragon Ball franchise, and especially Super, isn't known for having the most solid and believable foundations. I mean, number 17. Or that I have to believe that Freeza reached his current level after training for 4 months, without even showing us anything about his training system. To give us at least some moderately solid foundations. No, but he's a genius, super talented. Okay, I get it, Freeza is a genius. Now why are you trying to suck my penis? Point number 6, the issue of stains. Okay, for those who don't know, there's a meme. What's that? A meme? A joke? A gag? It says they stopped using Cell because he was hard to draw, due to the number of spots he has all over his body. I know it's a joke, but the problem is that some people take it literally. There are people who actually believe that Cell stopped appearing because of his damn spots. In the last video, many joked about it and I laughed with them. But there were a few dickheads who, all angry, told me that drawing Cell takes up too many resources. I don't know how to take that. Let's see. Let's imagine that it really is complicated to draw Cell. Because of this, I have an idea for a solution. Do you remember what I mentioned a moment ago about Bulma and the upgrades to Cell? We could have Bulma program a new evolution for Cell so that he could get a final form that way, or something like that. Plus, it could serve as a power-up and be the perfect excuse to change his design. After all, in this franchise, it's totally normal for characters to have a million different forms and redesigns. Let's be honest, we adore it. If we didn't, no one would have dreamed up the notorious cooler, golden final form from Dragon Ball Heroes. What an abomination, by the way. Anyway, these have been my reasons why I think Cell would have been a better choice than Frieza if we had to bring a warrior back from the dead. In short, I think Cell was easier to introduce into the story, more interesting, fresher above all, and easier to manage in terms of his levels of evil compared to Frieza,